All right, hello and good evening, and welcome to the ICT2641 orientation live stream hosted by the E-Tutor, who is myself, Brendan Fick. All right, so this is going to be a pretty quick stream. I know that students don't like it when people host things on public holidays and stuff. Okay, audio is good. When people host things on public holidays and stuff, so it's going to be very quick. I'm just going to go over like very important things that you need to know for the module going forward. So a quick introduction. My name is Brendan Fick, and I suppose the important things is that I have graduated from the University of Johannesburg with a BSc honors in computer science, and this is my third year with the module. This is my third year tutoring this module, being an e-tutor with this module. So I do have a fair amount of experience with the coursework and, sort of the kinds of problems that students may have when encountering, specific aspects of this module and with the way that assignments used to be held. Some things have changed, and I will cover that in the live stream as well. I'm sure you are aware. I would just like to point this out again, but on your MyUnisa, this probably is different for me because I have teacher role, but there's effectively two different kinds of websites for this module, right? There's the main site. They're referring to it as the module site in all the announcements. The module site is essentially where you're going to be doing your assignments, and this is where the main course announcements made by the lecturer will appear. And then on it says ICT2641E, this is the E-Tutor site. So this is the one that I'm sort of like handling in charge of. So this is where all my announcements and sort of teaching facilitation will be held. And just to give you like a quick overview of what we're going to be doing in the stream today, I'm just going to explain sort of what's my role as part of the lecturing staff. And then I'm going to explain, I want to go over the expectations, but I've already written like a little bit of stuff down here as well. And then I'll go through important things that you need to know about MyUnisa, and then I'll touch like very quickly on the tutorial letter, which is up, talk about assignments, and then I'll give some like very general type tips and vague things that students have had trouble with or made mistakes with in the past. Like I said, some things have changed. I'll also mention that. All right. Okay, first of all, just by the way, if you're watching the stream, I do have the WhatsApp group open in front of me, and I do have the live chat open in front of me. So if you do have questions about the module, you can go ahead and ask a question, and I'll get to it as we go through. All right. So the first thing and most important thing that I want to say is that you need to get the textbook. I do believe that the library does have it, but please make endeavors to get this textbook. This is it, the Business Analysis 3rd edition. This textbook has now been the same for 3 years, since 2020. You need this textbook to pass this module. There are lecture slides that will help, but they reference the textbook and sort of like structure the important aspects in the textbook. Cannot see your screen. Like I said, if you're not using the official YouTube app, or you're using a sort of embedding app, I think you'll have trouble viewing the stream. But like I said, I will upload once we are complete. All right, continuing on. So the main thing is you need the textbook. Please, if you happen to somehow get the textbook illegally, do not share it with other students, especially in the WhatsApp group or in the discussion forums, anything. Do not share it. Don't use it, the illegal textbook. Please, you have access to this through the library. I'm sure that you just please get the textbook. All right. And WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group will primarily be used for announcements, just by the way. I don't necessarily like doing teaching. I will answer questions if people ask in the WhatsApp group, but I will also kind of like port them onto the discussion forum so that more people can see. But also another thing with the WhatsApp group is that it's more private from higher layer like vision. So like supervisors don't see the WhatsApp group, for example. They don't see like if I'm doing work in there. So it's mostly for announcements and for student convenience. And also, if you do dishonest acts, I will be forced to leave. So please keep that in mind. All right. This is the tutorial letter. this is found on your main module site in its official study material or prescribed material, one of these tabs here. So yes, there it is. Official study material. This is the tutorial letter. This is a year module, as I'm sure you're aware. So we'll go through the tutorial letter real quick. Yes, with emphasis on assignment breakdowns and year mark and stuff like that. All right. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I mean, there are a lot of important information in here, particularly with lecturer contact details. I don't think they have my contact details in here, but that is located on my own E-Tutor site. And they do talk about specific outcomes about this business analysis module. And yes, here we go. This is the contact details. So if you're having any trouble, you don't know who to email, you can either email me or you can come to this document and reference this. The textbook we have talked about, and where are the assignments? This is the study plan as well. I do have this open here as well. So this is a very rough study plan to give you an idea of the way that it would be sort of recommended to pace yourself through the coursework. This being my third year of the module, I can tell you that students outright struggle with the textbook is very dense. It's very wordy. It's like the concepts covered, they tend to be very in-depth and they go into a lot of detail in textbook. So you do need like a decent amount of time to get through the coursework, especially like this is why they got it set out with each chapter covering a week. See, 11 to 12. We are now on the week of the 25th to the 1st. You're supposed to be on chapter 3 already according to this, but you can work at your own pace, but I would just recommend that you budget enough time for you to get through the module. All right. This is back on the tutorial letter. Okay. The assessments. So the main thing that you need to know about the assignments is that there are 2 assignments for this year. There are assignment 1 and assignment 2. They will be made available via your module site on MyUnisa. So once again, the site here. And here on the side tab, they'll have assignment ICT2641, assignment 1, and assignment 2. So as of right now, they're not available yet. The sort of projected due dates will be the end of next month, which is May, for assignment 1, and then assignment 2 also once again has projected a due date of July. Once again, for the exact due dates, please try and keep up to date with the announcements made on MyUnisa. Always try and check at least once, twice, every day if possible, but at least twice a week on the announcement tabs and try and see if assignment dates have changed. I mean, on the main page, they do also have a calendar that you can look at as well. And yeah, so they do have important things highlighted on the calendar. Yes, okay, back to the tutorial. So the other thing is that you need to know is if the assignment 1 and assignment 2 are both weighted 50%, which will make up your year mark for the module. And then here it is. Assignment 1 is 50%, assignment 2 is 50% as well. And then these two get added together and then you'll get your year mark. And then your year mark will count 20%, and then exam is 80% for your final mark. And yes, all right. Okay, I think that's the most important things with the tutorial later. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this succinct and short. And let me just check the WhatsApp group. Okay. All right. Okay, study plan, assignments. Okay, so moving on. Now we're just gonna go very quickly through MyUnisa. I'm sure you have noticed, but it has changed. We're now using Moodle, so there's a lot of things that, including myself, we all have to get used to. So this is the main module site for the lecturer. The lecturer, Ms. Naidu. I'm sure you've gone through this information. And now we'll go to my site. So see, I've written a bit longer of like expectations and my background and etc. and my available hours. I'm usually available just make sure that it's not midnight or very early in the morning, because I do have other responsibilities that I'm tending to as I, E-Tutor this module. All right. Okay, so the important things that you need to know about my site in particular, the things that I'm going to be focusing and sort of the way that I'm going to go about facilitating the learning of this module is, in essence, contained in these 4 tabs at the bottom of the main page, which is the activities. So there's announcements, discussion forums, chapter slides, and lecture and study materials. So we'll go through all of them in no particular order. Let me just see if I'm missing anything. No. All right. So the announcements, this will be where I make announcements. I'll particularly keep you abreast of due dates, and I will also talk about announcements for future sessions like these live stream class sessions that I'll be hosting. So this stuff, I'm reasonably sure that you do get push notifications via email on your student email, or maybe even on your private email, about these these announcements made. So yes, there's 2 already made talking about the live stream that's happening right now, and as the year goes on, as the academic year goes on, yes, as the academic year goes on, there will be more, particularly talking about updates to when for example, the assignments will be available for you to complete, etc., etc. So the announcement tool is very straightforward. This one, I don't think you interact in terms of writing. This is more like reading and gaining important information. But I would like you to keep tabs on this, at least, like I said, at least twice every week, if not every day. I do also think you get emails from these, so yes. All right. And then the next important one is the discussion forums. So these ones are a little bit more open-ended, I would guess. So the way that I've done it here is I have sort of focused discussion topics for each aspect of the module. Most necessarily being there's one for each chapter in the textbook. So if you do want a little bit more detail, if there's a concept that you don't necessarily understand or you want it to be explained in a different way, then you can go ahead and say, hello, Mr. E-Tutor. I don't know what I'm going through chapter 7 and I don't know what these, X is. And then I'll say, okay, I'm referring to the textbook, etc. Here's some more information explained in a different way. So that's the purpose of these sort of chapter-focused discussion forums. And then I do have one for additional resources. In previous years, this used to serve a little bit more of a different purpose, because the assignments used to have questions that said you need to consult real-life situations. So in previous years, I used to have case studies from other businesses having struggled, and then saying you can use these to help in the assignments, and then reference them as you answer the assignment questions. But in this year, I don't think that will be the case, because I've been informed that the assignments will only be short questions, which is true, false, multiple choice, and very short definition or discussion based questions. And then I do have a general discussion thread. This is just mostly for sort of just if you're having trouble with anything that isn't a specific topic. For example, you want to know when's the assignment due dates or something. I mean, you can check the announcements as well, but if you want more information, you can come to the general discussion thread. And then likewise, we have focused discussions for assignment 1 and assignment 2, but these will probably see more action once the assignments have been made, uploaded, let's say, or you have access to them. And then one for the for the exam as well. And yes, so this is from student input perspective. This might be the one that you interact with the most, depending on your learning style. All right, let's go back to the main page and go to the next tab. The next tab is, these 2 ones are very important. That's why I left them for last. So let's go through chapter slides first. So this is essentially, I suppose I can put this as a PowerPoint presentation covering each chapter, but it's very it leads you, as opposed to divulging information in depth. Right, just so right off the bat, this is 2020. Don't worry about this. The syllabus hasn't changed since 2020, so this is fine. So this is what it looks like. But this you can use as a guide to sort of inform you what's the most important aspects of each chapter, as opposed to just going through the whole textbook. Because I'm saying, the textbook is very important, right? But once you do spend time sitting down and going through it, you'll probably come to realize very quickly that it is very dense and very wordy, and you will most likely find it boring. I won't even fault you for that. It's just, there's a lot of information, and it's very generalized and covered in a very broad manner, the textbook. So the lecture slides are very important in that aspect, in the sense that it will focus your attention onto specific concepts in the textbook that are important and can actually be asked as, exam questions or questions in the assignments. And they'll point out like important graphs, see the scope of BA work. So basically the stuff that's covered in the lecture slides is the things that you want to spend more emphasis on when you go through the textbook. Let's put it like that. Yes. And just on the other hand, do not try to use the lecture slides as the only kind of source of information in order to answer questions. This module won't work like that. You need the textbook. The lecture slides reference the textbook so that you know what to look for in the textbook, so that you can go get more detail and then like read and understand and then answer in your own words. If you just, because there's not enough depth in the text, there's not enough depth in the lecture slides to be able to answer questions. Let's put it like that. I'm putting that right off the bat. Don't use this only. This won't be enough. All right, so this once again is contained under chapter slides, and there is 1 to 14. Just by the way, this is also important, but just by the way, is it 13? I think it's 12. Yes, it is 12. 12 is not necessarily modeling requirements. Yes, this is the chapter. This chapter is not necessarily covered in this module. I've been informed by the lecturer that chapter 12 is essentially outside of the scope of this module. So this one you can just read through it, but the reason why it's not covered is because it's about modeling requirements, UML diagrams and stuff like that. That is covered in more detail in other IT modules, so you don't necessarily need to go through this chapter in much detail. I've been informed that it won't be asked in the assignments at least. But yes, I will constantly nag the lecturer about this and try and confirm whether it's in the exam, because I know what it's like to be told that something isn't in the exam and then it appears and you're like, what is this? How did this happen? But all right, that's it for the chapter slides. So that's very important. That you will use as like a guide to get through the textbook, to understand what's the most important concepts, to know what to focus on essentially, and to go through and understand and gather your own understanding so that you can, get the marks from answering questions. And I will bring you to the final one of the Mayonisa, and then after that I'll just close off talking with some tips and some things that students have had trouble with in past years, and then that'll be it. All right, so this one is very important. This is the study material forum. I was thinking about presenting this in a different manner, but I settled on this in the end. I'm not exactly that familiar with this Moodle platform at the moment. But yes, so essentially, this is a sort of it sets of sample questions composed by myself that sort of quiz you on each chapter. And the questions do vary from short questions. I don't have true or false and multiple choice. So it's only short questions and long questions. But once again, okay, we'll talk a little bit about it, and then I'll say once again how you can use this to know what's important in each chapter. All right. So short questions. Just by the way, have you ever heard of the phrase Bloom's taxonomy before? There's a little bit of trivia, but when lecturers or people that set exams, when they're trying to ask questions, they look at, okay, I won't go into all the details, but essentially questions form different like layers of knowledge that they want to test. So the way that I think about this is look at the kind of language that they use in the questions, and then that will give you sort of an inference of how much detail or how you would need to approach a question. For example, if they say, what is? This is a definition-based question, so you only need to give the definition of something. What is? Yes, name. This is list. You only need to list the things, so you list as well. Define, another definition. Outline. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky. Outline forms part of the sort of more in-depth and more detail that you would need to give about topics. Typically, they'd use outline, discuss, or elaborate. And then the mark allocation would be like upwards of 4 marks or something like that. But yes, that's just that. This kind of thing, like knowing how to answer questions, I'll probably talk a little bit more when it's time for exam prep. But essentially, yes, so these questions are basically, when I was making them, I was trying to do sort of practice exam tier questions that would help familiarize yourself with how to answer, or like how questions are posed to you and how to approach them, and then how to get marks from them. Like, sorry, let me just check the WhatsApp group. All right, we're good. How to get sufficient marks from them in your answer, essentially. So I do know that some of them was a little bit vague, but like I said, this is also actually a forum, so I think you can reply to this and say, I would like more information on how you answered this question. Then I would say, okay, here's more, and so on. You don't have to just take the information as it is. It can be a discussion as well. I mean, I do understand that some students they benefit more from sort of discussion-based interaction in terms of understanding and learning, as opposed to just passively reading something and trying to understand it on their own. And that's also why I like this platform, because it feels a lot more flexible in terms of that. All right, so far I do only have 2 of these. I mean, I will cover every chapter except chapter 12 as the year progresses. I'm trying to align myself with the study plan for the year, and see we're on the week of the 3rd, so probably by the end of this week, by Friday maybe, I should have chapter 3 up. But essentially, if you change the way that you think about these questions a little bit, you can use them to sort of point out aspects in the textbook that are important and can be asked to you in like an exam format. So let's say, this is probably going to sound familiar to you, but let's say you slacked on your studies and now, damn, you have to go through the whole textbook, man. It's so much work. What do I look for? What is important? This stuff is so wordy. Help me, please. So with that in mind, you open up chapter 2. Before you even look at chapter 2, you say, okay, I'm going to consult these study material questions and look for keywords that will purport to information in chapter 2. Okay. Question 1 says, competency in terms of being a business analyst. This sounds important, right? Question 2 says, the right skills, or why it's important to have the right skills for the right situation. This is important, right? 3 personal qualities, right? You see, it's how you change the question around, as opposed to just using the question just to sort of test yourself to get an answer. You can use it to like reverse engineer what is important in the textbook. So that's just another way that, like, when I used to study and stuff, the main takeaway that I used to get from past papers and things was understanding what was important in the textbook, as opposed to how questions were asked and how they would want you to answer them. I usually used to find this more important, because then you can sort of infer from the textbook, and then you can take this one step further. And as you're going through the textbook, you can kind of like pick out passages where it looks like they might ask something related to this, and then sort of focus on this and try to think of how you would discuss this in an exam. But that's just sort of like how to think about how to approach the coursework. And yes, I think that's just about it for all the website and the Mayunisa important things. Like I said, I do understand that this is a public holiday, so I do want to keep this a little bit short. I don't like taking up people's time. It's just that load shedding has been very violent these last 2 weeks, so this was one of the only free times in my schedule I could slot this in. All right. Okay, then finally, let me just check if there's no comments, nothing in the live chat, nothing in the WhatsApp group. All right, so I'm just going to close off with sort of tips and things that like students have had trouble with in the past. The assessment format has changed. You don't need to like worry about this too much, but in past years, the assessments all had case studies, and you had to give long questions. I mean, you had to answer long questions. Typically, it was like 300 words each. And they said you need to give examples of referencing the textbook. Essentially, it was to like backtrack all the way to that Bloom's taxonomy thing that I was talking about a little bit earlier. That's a different way that they pose the questions in order to test your theoretical knowledge and how you can apply it to a practical situation. So I've been informed that it's just going to be short questions, and I don't think a case study will be involved. I haven't seen the assignments yet. But yes, just keep that in mind. That was something that students had a lot of trouble with, and I'm actually kind of happy that it's changed. And yes, okay, another thing I want to emphasize is please get the textbook. It's very important. Don't just use these chapter slides that we have here. Don't just use this. This is insufficient. Use this as a guide to understand what's important in the textbook, and then focus on that. And then that will help you answer the assignments and answer the exam well. Another thing is, don't copy the textbook. Don't think just because they write things very smartly that you can't put them a different way. Ultimately, what we are testing is your understanding of the work. So what we want from you is to, use the chapter slides as a guide to go through the textbook, read through the content, understand it, and when you're poised with a question, answer in your own words that shows your understanding of the concepts in the textbook. That's how you essentially learn. That's how you take away the most that you can from this module. Yes, I'm going to say this again. Don't copy the textbook. This is my third year with the module. I can pick out very easily when students are paraphrasing or referencing or outright copying the textbook. Don't do this. If I'm looking at your work, I will know immediately that you have copied the textbook. I'll send you back an email. Just don't do this. The other thing is, please budget your time for this module. I like to emphasize that the textbook is very dense. You won't get through it very quickly. If you set aside, 2-3 weeks and you're trying to get through 7 chapters just in time for the exam, you might be a little bit pressed to the point where you probably start, skimming through the later chapters just to get through them. Just please budget enough time. This module can be rather dense. Another one is please ask for help if you struggle. That is essentially my job, is to help you if you struggle. But this also ties into what I said a little bit earlier, where if you start early, you can realize early on if you're struggling and get help in time, like when you need it. If you send me the passive-aggressive emails the night before the assignment is due, I'm not going to be able to help you in time. I work on a schedule. I'm not going to be, up at 4 a.m. waiting for students who want to do their last-minute assessments. Like I said, just start early and you don't have to be early bird, just be on time. Budget enough time. Look through the coursework so that you know how much you have to get through. Don't get caught with, too much on your plate. All right. This one is a little bit more tricky. I don't think that they will actually supply you with past papers. Don't expect them to supply you with past papers. Another thing is, if you happen to get your hands on past papers, if it's older than the year 2020, don't use it, because the module syllabus has changed. If you use a past paper older than 2020, you will effectively, the textbook was different back then actually, you will effectively be like learning the wrong material. We got a comment here that says, do we have to reference when writing from a certain source, like paraphrasing? It depends on whether you're poised with long questions or not. But like I said, the assignments are only short questions. But it would be good practice to do so. So I would recommend that you can if you're paraphrasing. If you're paraphrasing, you have to actually, now that I think about it. If you're sorry, I was thinking about a case study there, but if you're if you're paraphrasing, you have to. Don't paraphrase the textbook though. Don't do that. Like I said, just answer in your own words. So the way that I had a lecturer back in 2012, went back when he said how he was explaining how to deal with plagiarism. He said, you read through the work, then you close the textbook, and then you answer the question. That way there's no chance that you can copy the textbook. You give your own understanding, and then that's it. They can't fault you for that. That's what we want. All right. Any more questions before we close off? I'm just trying to think if there's any more important aspects. At the end of the day, like I said in the beginning of the stream, my job is to facilitate the learning of this module. I do think I've written, if you're interested, you can read all this expectations and stuff, but essentially my job is to help you understand the coursework and to help you if you're having problems and to help you sort of liaise with the lecturer. So if you unfamiliar, you can't make the exam, anything, just approach me. My email is, I put it everywhere. It's on, I think every announcement I make and everything will have my email and contact information. Let me just see. I have a little like cue cards that I've went through. Let me just see if I went through everything here. Tutorial letter, yes. Mayonisa, yes. The 4 tools, yes. Don't copy the textbook, yes. Ask for help if you struggle. Don't copy each other. Also, by the way, this one goes without saying, but I just want to emphasize this. The varsity is actually very, on the ball with catching plagiarism. Don't even attempt it, and don't think, okay, I'm gonna copy someone, but change a little bit. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. All right. Thanks. I have a smooth silky. Well, I'm glad you like it. Hopefully it will make students attend these sessions and be more engrossed in like going through the coursework and understanding the module. And yes, okay, I think that'll be it. There is a lot more that I will say. The last thing I want to say is I am intending, this is a little bit tentative, but I'm intending to schedule one of these sessions each month. Typically in previous years, this wasn't a year module until last year, but what I used to do was, I'm going to say one more important thing, so don't close just yet. I think I'm closing off. One more important thing after this, then we'll end. All right, so I used to do, when the assignment was complete, I used to go through the assignment questions in a session like this, and then talk about each question, and then say, not necessarily just reading the answer to you, reading the memo to you. I would talk about what this question wants from you and how you would sort of approach this question and how you would, essentially how much detail you would need to give in order to basically get the marks or full marks from a question. What we're looking for you, what we're looking from you from a question, as opposed to just, reading the memo to you saying, this is the question, this is the memo, this is where it is in the textbook, etc. Because I felt like that was more helpful to students. And the last thing is, this might depend on how the assignment format is laid out. But in previous years, like I said, it used to just be long questions. So I know that students used to really struggle with that. But I used to allow students to send like drafts of the assignments to me. And I would like look through them and say, not necessarily like give you the answers, just tell you if you're on the right track. That's not my job. My job is not to give you the answers. My job is to facilitate your learning of the module, not to, the high school teachers like this phrase spoon feeding. I don't do that. So yes, I will still be open to this. My email is all over the place, like I said, but this will depend on how the coursework is asked. Like if it's not in, if it's just multiple choice, then I can't really like say because then it's just, you're right or you're wrong. It's like true or false. I can't say if you're on the right track. So typically for short questions or long questions, I can do that. And yes, I think that'll be it. I don't want to take up any more time. I was going for 25 minutes, around 35. So that'll be it. I hope that you enjoyed the session. And just to close off, I would like to emphasize that you can watch this live stream at any time. If you jumped in late, the link will always be there. You can always just like scroll back And for students that do have, data problems, I do know how YouTube is. I will be uploading to Google Drive tomorrow or whenever I can download the stream. It usually takes a while for it to encode and everything. But when I'm allowed to do that, I will download it to Google Drive in lower quality, and then you can watch it as a direct download or stream it from YouTube. And that will be it. So I hope that you have a good public holiday and enjoy the rest of your evening. This was Brandon Fick, the E-Tutor for ICT2641.